How does a product labeled 100% cheese legally contain 0% cheese, get sold in 3,000 grocery stores for years, and only get caught because a disgruntled employee called the FDA? The American cheese industry generates over $40 billion in annual retail sales. The dairy checkoff programs that fund cheese marketing collect hundreds of millions of dollars each year in mandatory farmer assessments. The power of the cheese advertising campaign, you remember, was funded by the same government-mandated program that brought you Got Milk. Americans consume over 40 pounds of cheese per person per year, more than double what they ate in 1970. That increase was not driven by cheese getting better. It was driven by cheese getting marketed. What if I told you that the 100% grated Parmesan cheese in your pantry contains up to 9% wood pulp? That one company's 100% Parmesan contained 0% Parmesan, and the president faced criminal charges? That the cheese brand marketing itself as small family farms on rolling green hills sources 80% of its milk from one of the largest factory farms in America with over 32,000 cows on concrete? That the Federal Trade Commission charged America's biggest cheese company with false advertising for exaggerating the calcium content in its processed cheese slices? Today, we are examining 16 cheese brands. This is not about whether cheese is good or bad for you. This is about an industry that puts wood pulp in products labeled 100% cheese, markets factory farm products as small family farm heritage, calls processed cheese food a natural product, and spends more on the packaging than on the quality of what is inside. The United States produces over 13 billion pounds of cheese annually. More than 50 class action lawsuits have been filed against Parmesan cheese brands alone. And the gap between the image on the label and the reality in the factory is measured in billions of dollars. Before we start, understand the scale. Kraft Heinz alone controls a massive share of the American cheese market through brands like Kraft Singles, Velveeta, Philadelphia, Cracker Barrel, and its iconic green Parmesan canister. Lactalis Group, the world's largest dairy company headquartered in France, generates over $25 billion in revenue and owns President, Galbani, Sorrento, and dozens more. Bell Group owns Laughing Cow and Baby Bell, Saputo, Tillamook, Sargento, and a handful of other companies control the vast majority of the cheese Americans eat. When you browse the cheese aisle and think you are choosing between dozens of independent producers, you are mostly choosing between different labels owned by the same 4 or 5 corporations. The diversity on the shelf is an illusion. The processing facility is the same, only the wrapper changes. Let us compare the promise to the product. Claim by claim, lie by lie. Number 16. Essential Everyday Parmesan. Essential Everyday labels its grated Parmesan as 100% grated Parmesan cheese. Essential Everyday is a store brand sold at Jewel Osco and other grocery chains. Bloomberg News commissioned independent laboratory testing of store-bought grated Parmesan products. Essential Everyday tested at 8.8% cellulose. Cellulose is an anti-clumping agent derived from wood pulp or plant fibers. The FDA considers 2 to 4% cellulose to be an acceptable level. 8.8% is more than double the upper limit of what is considered acceptable. A product that is nearly 9% wood-derived filler cannot honestly claim to be 100% cheese. The front of the label says 100%. The laboratory says 91% at best. The math does not work, no matter how you spin it. Number 15. Great Value Parmesan. The claim, 100% grated Parmesan cheese. Walmart's Great Value brand. 100% grated Parmesan cheese tested at 7.8% cellulose in Bloomberg's independent laboratory analysis. A class action lawsuit was filed against Walmart, alleging that the 100% representation was false and mischaracterized the amount of Parmesan in the container. Walmart's Great Value Parmesan contained nearly 8% wood-derived filler in a product marketed as entirely cheese. The Food and Drug Administration allows cellulose in grated cheese. What it does not allow is levels this far above the acceptable range, and what it certainly does not endorse is calling the result 100% cheese. Walmart is the largest grocery retailer in America. Millions of consumers trust that 100% means 100%. It means approximately 92%, with 8% of what you are eating derived from ground-up wood fiber. Number 14. Castle Cheese Products. The claim was 100 Parmesan cheese. Castle Cheese Inc., based in rural Pennsylvania, supplied grated cheese products to thousands of retail stores across 30 states. When the FDA investigated after a tip, it discovered something remarkable. Castle Cheese's 100% Parmesan cheese contained 0% Parmesan. None. The product was a mixture of Swiss, mozzarella, white cheddar, and cellulose. The FDA wrote in its warning letter that the product labels declared the products were Parmesan or Romano cheese, but they were in fact a mixture of trimmings of various cheeses and other ingredients. The president and co-owner of Castle Cheese, Michelle Murder, faced criminal charges and up to a year in prison, plus a $100,000 fine for violating the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The company went bankrupt. 100% Parmesan with 0% Parmesan is not marketing spin. It is fraud. It went undetected for years across 3,000 grocery stores because nobody was checking. Castle Cheese sold its fake Parmesan through a wholesale grocer that in turn supplied major grocery chains across 30 states. For years, consumers across a majority of American states were shaking a blend of Swiss trimmings, white cheddar scraps, mozzarella remnants, and cellulose onto their pasta, while the label assured them it was 100% Parmesan. The case is the most extreme documented example of cheese fraud in American history, but the industry's own testing suggests it sits on a spectrum. If Castle Cheese could sell 0% Parmesan as 100% Parmesan for years without detection, the question is not whether other companies are cutting corners. The question is, how far? Number 13. Kraft 100% Grated Parmesan Cheese. The claim is 100% grated Parmesan cheese. Kraft Heinz, the largest cheese company in America, labels its iconic green canister as 100% grated Parmesan cheese. Bloomberg's laboratory tests found 3.8% cellulose, which falls within the FDA acceptable range of 2 to 4%. But the 100% claim on the front label is the issue. More than 50 class action lawsuits have been filed against Parmesan producers, alleging consumer deception over the discrepancy between the 100% label and the cellulose content. In 2024, the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals reopened class action lawsuits against cheesemakers and grocers over false advertising of products with front labels claiming 100% grated Parmesan cheese. The appeals court judge wrote that a plausible reading of the label would infer that the products were all cheese, all the cheese is Parmesan, and it is all grated. He noted that many reasonable consumers do not instinctively parse every front label or read every back label before placing groceries in their carts. Kraft's cellulose level may be within acceptable limits, but the 100 claim on the front of the can is not within acceptable limits of honesty. Number 12. Velveeta. The claim is made with real cheese. Velveeta, also owned by Kraft Heinz, prominently labels its shells and cheese product as made with real cheese. A class action lawsuit alleges that cheese is not a predominant ingredient in the cheese sauce. Under FDA regulations, Velveeta itself cannot legally be called cheese. It is classified as a pasteurized prepared cheese product. The distinction matters. Cheese is a regulated term with specific compositional requirements. Pasteurized prepared cheese product is a lower classification that allows more non-cheese ingredients. Velveeta's ingredient list includes milk protein concentrate, modified food starch, and whey protein concentrate alongside actual cheese components. The made with real cheese label is technically true in the same way that a swimming pool made with real water is true even if the pool is mostly chlorine and chemicals. The product contains some real cheese, but the label creates the impression that cheese is the primary ingredient. The lawsuits allege it is not. Number 11. Kraft Singles. The claim was made with 5 ounces of milk per slice. Kraft singles were the subject of a landmark Federal Trade Commission enforcement action. The Federal Trade Commission charged Kraft with false and misleading advertising, ruling that the company's commercials exaggerated the calcium content of its singles processed cheese slices. The ads implied that each slice contained the same amount of calcium as 5 ounces of milk. The Federal Trade Commission found that this was not true because calcium is lost during processing. The calcium in a Kraft single is significantly less than what 5 ounces of milk would provide. This was not a class action from a private plaintiff. This was the federal government's own consumer protection agency determining that America's largest cheese company was lying about the nutritional content of its most popular product. Kraft singles are not legally cheese. They are a pasteurized, prepared cheese product. The individual plastic wrapping on each slice is a marketing innovation that communicates convenience and premium portioning. The product inside is a blend of cheese, milk protein concentrate, food starch, and other ingredients assembled into a shelf-stable sheet. The wrapper is more sophisticated than the product. Kraft singles remain the best-selling sliced cheese product in America, despite the Federal Trade Commission enforcement action, despite the inability to legally call them cheese, and despite the ingredient list containing items that most consumers would not associate with dairy. The success of Kraft singles is a testament to the power of marketing and habit. Generations of Americans grew up with these slices on their grilled cheese sandwiches. The emotional connection to a childhood food often overrides the rational assessment of what the product actually is. Kraft does not sell cheese. Kraft sells nostalgia wrapped in individual plastic. Number 10. Sargento. The claim, natural cheese. Sargento markets its products prominently as natural cheese. A class action lawsuit alleges that the word natural is misleading because the milk used to produce Sargento cheese comes from cows fed genetically modified corn and soy and treated with recombinant bovine somatotropin. The plaintiff cited Consumer Reports survey data showing that 64% of consumers believe a natural label means the animal's feed contained no genetically modified organisms, and 68% believe natural means no artificial growth hormones. Sargento argues that natural cheese is an industry term used to differentiate its products from processed cheese, not a quality claim about farming practices. The FDA has never finalized a legal definition for natural on food labels, despite inviting public comment in 2015. In the cheese industry, natural simply means not processed. It does not mean organic, pasture-raised, hormone-free, or free of genetically modified organisms. But Sargento knows that consumers interpret the word natural far more broadly than the industry definition allows. The gap between what natural means to the industry and what it means to the consumer is where the profit margin lives. Number 9. Tillamook. The claim is old-fashioned farmer values from the people who really love cheese. Tillamook County Creamery Association markets itself with imagery of small family farms, rolling green coastal pastures, and old-fashioned farmer values. The advertising campaigns tell consumers to say goodbye to big food. The Oregon Supreme Court in 2025 reversed lower court decisions and ruled that a class action alleging misleading marketing can proceed. The lawsuit, filed by the Animal Legal Defense Fund on behalf of Oregon consumers, alleges that Tillamook sources up to 80% of its milk from one of the largest dairy operations in the United States. Located in the desert of eastern Oregon, the facility keeps more than 70,000 cows total, including 32,000 in active dairy production, on cement-floored facilities and barren dirt feedlots. The cows are milked by robotic carousels, not by farmers on green hillsides. The heavily advertised cooperative of small family farms in Tillamook County represents just a tiny proportion of the company's production. The Animal Legal Defense Fund said Tillamook sells its dairy products as a fairy tale, that you can be a billion-dollar company and still source from small-scale farms where cows receive individualized care and access to pasture. Tillamook is poised to do over $1 billion in sales. The rolling green hills in the advertising are real. They are just not where most of the milk comes from. The company's marketing tagline tells consumers that Tillamook cheddar cheese is made with 4 ingredients: patience and old-fashioned farmer values in Tillamook, Oregon. The ingredient list is honest. The geography is not. The cheese may be made in Tillamook. The milk that makes the cheese comes overwhelmingly from a desert feedlot in eastern Oregon where cows stand on concrete, not coastal pasture. When the company's advertising tells you to say goodbye to big food, it is the definition of big food telling you to say goodbye to itself. That is not marketing. That is performance art, funded by $1 billion production budget. Number 8. Laughing Cow. The claim is made with milk from cows not treated with RBST. Laughing Cow, owned by French dairy giant Bell Group, markets its individually wrapped cheese wedges with a friendly cow mascot and the RBST-free claim. As we documented in our milk investigation, the RBST-free claim is true of the vast majority of American dairy. Saying that your milk comes from cows not treated with RBST is like saying your car comes with seatbelts. It describes the standard, not a distinction. Laughing Cow is also a processed cheese product, not a natural cheese. The creamy, spreadable texture is achieved through processing that blends cheese with emulsifiers, milk ingredients, and other additives. The friendly packaging creates an impression of wholesome simplicity. The ingredient list tells a more complex story. The premium you pay for Laughing Cow over a generic processed cheese spread is paying for the mascot, the individually wrapped portions, and the French branding. The cheese inside is functionally identical to products that cost half as much. Number 7. Baby Bell. The claim is 100% real cheese. Snack a little bigger. Baby Bell, also owned by Bell Group, wraps each individual cheese round in distinctive red wax and a net bag. The packaging is the product. The wax, the net, the individually portioned size, and the playful branding are what differentiate Baby Bell from a block of the same cheese sold without the costume. When you calculate the per-pound price of Baby Bell versus a block of the same type of cheese, you are paying a dramatic premium for packaging and portioning. The 100% real cheese claim is accurate. Baby Bell is made from pasteurized milk and cultures. But the marketing genius of Baby Bell is that the packaging makes a commodity product feel like a premium snack. The red wax communicates specialness. The net bag communicates craft. The portioning communicates mindful eating. None of these have anything to do with the cheese. They have everything to do with the price. Number 6. President Cheese. The claim, the taste of France. President is another brand owned by the Lactalis Group, the largest dairy company in the world. It markets Brie, Camembert, and other cheeses with explicit French origin claims. The imagery is Parisian, the packaging evokes French markets, and the brand name itself implies authority and prestige. Lactalis Group generates over $25 billion in annual revenue, and it operates in more than 85 countries. When you buy President Brie at an American grocery store, you are not buying a product from a small French fromagerie. You are buying a product from the world's largest dairy corporation. The French branding works because American consumers associate France with cheese expertise. That association is real as a cultural fact, and it is manufactured as a marketing claim. The taste of France, like the best part of waking up or good to the last drop, is a feeling, not a measurable quality standard. Number 5. Borden. The claim is quality since 1857. Elsie the Cow. Borden has used Elsie the Cow as its mascot since 1936, creating one of the most recognizable brand characters in American food marketing. The friendly cow suggests pastoral farming, individual animal care, and traditional dairy values. Borden produces processed American cheese singles and loaf cheese. Like Kraft singles, Borden's American cheese is a pasteurized, prepared cheese product, not a natural cheese. The Elsie mascot creates an emotional connection between the consumer and a specific cow, implying a scale of production where individual animals matter. The reality of the American processed cheese supply chain involves industrial dairy operations processing millions of pounds of milk into standardized products. Elsie is not a real cow. She is a trademark that has been selling processed cheese product as wholesome dairy for nearly 90 years. Number 4. Organic Valley. The claim is small farmer cooperative, pasture-raised. Organic Valley markets itself as a cooperative of small family farms committed to organic pasture-based dairy. The brand identity is built on the contrast with industrial dairy. But as we explored in our milk investigation, the term pasture raised on dairy products has no formal FDA definition. The USDA organic standards require access to pasture for no fewer than 120 days per year. That means cows can be confined indoors for up to 245 days. Access does not mean the cows spend their days on pasture. It means they have the technical ability to reach an outdoor area. Organic Valley charges significant premiums based on this imagery. The cooperative structure is genuine, and the farms are smaller than Tillamook's industrial suppliers. But the language of pasture-raised creates an impression that may exceed the minimum requirements the certification actually demands. Organic Valley is the best of the mass-market options. It is also proof that even the best option in the industry relies on language that exceeds the legal standard it meets. Number 3. Dairy checkoff funded marketing. The claim was, the power of cheese. 3 a day. The dairy industry, through USDA-mandated checkoff programs, has spent hundreds of millions of dollars promoting cheese consumption in America. The dairy checkoff funded the The Power of Cheese campaign and the 3-a-day dairy campaign, which recommended 3 servings of dairy every day. These campaigns were not funded by individual cheese companies. They were funded by mandatory assessments on dairy farmers, administered by the USDA and managed by Dairy Management, Inc. The same organization worked directly with fast food chains to increase cheese usage on menu items. Dairy Management, Inc. partnered with Domino's Pizza to develop a pizza with 40% more cheese, then spent $12 million marketing the new pizza. The partnership with Domino's increased cheese sales, but was later criticized by nutrition advocates who noted that the USDA was simultaneously telling Americans to eat less saturated fat while funding campaigns to put more cheese on pizza. The government that publishes dietary guidelines is the same government that mandates advertising designed to increase consumption of the product those guidelines say to limit. That is not a conflict of interest. That is the conflict of interest. Number 2. The processed cheese industrial complex. The claim is real and natural. Made with milk. American processed cheese is one of the most successful marketing achievements in food history. The industry has convinced consumers to pay premium prices for products that cannot legally be called cheese. Kraft Singles, Velveeta, Borden American, and dozens of store brands are legally classified as pasteurized prepared cheese products or pasteurized processed cheese food, categories that allow the inclusion of emulsifiers, stabilizers, milk protein concentrates, modified food starch, and other ingredients that would not be present in actual cheese. The industry uses the word cheese on every package, in every advertisement, and in every brand name, while technically complying with FDA regulations by printing the legally required product classification in smaller text. When Americans say they are eating cheese, millions of them are eating a processed food product that contains cheese alongside a list of additives designed to extend shelf life, improve meltability, and reduce cost. The marketing says cheese, the label says cheese product. The distinction is measured in billions of dollars of profit from selling consumers something that is not what they think it is. The processed cheese industry is perhaps the most successful example of definitional manipulation in American food marketing. The industry took a product that legally cannot be called cheese, put the word cheese in every possible location on the packaging, and trained 3 generations of Americans to call it cheese. When you order a cheeseburger at a fast food restaurant, the slice on your burger is almost certainly a pasteurized prepared cheese product. When your children ask for cheese on their sandwich, the product you unwrap is a pasteurized prepared cheese food. The word cheese is everywhere. The actual cheese is buried in a list of ingredients alongside emulsifiers, stabilizers, and modified starches. The achievement is not culinary, it is linguistic. Number 1. The cheese advertising industrial complex. The American cheese industry does not have a quality problem. It has an honesty problem. Of all the popular cheeses in the United States, hard Italian varieties are the most likely to contain fillers because of their expense. 100 pounds of milk produces 10 pounds of cheddar but only 8 pounds of Parmesan. That 2-pound difference is worth millions to manufacturers. The incentive to fill the gap with cellulose, cheaper cheeses, or both is baked into the economics of Parmesan production. More than 50 class action lawsuits have targeted Parmesan producers for putting wood-derived filler in products labeled 100% cheese. Castle Cheese sold 0% Parmesan as 100% Parmesan for years before getting caught. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled that these lawsuits can proceed because reasonable consumers interpret 100% to mean 100%. Now consider the words the industry uses. Natural cheese means not processed. It does not mean organic, pasture-raised, or free from GMO feed. Artisan has no regulated definition. Farmstead implies small scale but has no legal standard. Aged is meaningful for cheese quality, but the duration required varies wildly. Handcrafted, small batch, and cave-aged are unregulated marketing terms. And 100%, the most basic mathematical claim a label can make, has been proven false in laboratory tests on products from the largest retailers in America. Tillamook sells fairy tale imagery of small farms while sourcing from a 70,000 cow factory operation. Sargento calls its cheese natural while the cows eat GMO feed and receive synthetic hormones. The FTC charged Kraft with lying about calcium. Velveeta labels itself made with real cheese when cheese is not the predominant ingredient. And the USDA simultaneously tells Americans to eat less saturated fat while funding $12 million campaigns to put more cheese on Domino's pizza. What is the alternative? Producers who let quality do the talking. Belgioioso cheese in Green Bay, Wisconsin is consistently cited by cheese technologists as producing genuine American Parmesan without excessive fillers or misleading labels. Sartori Company in Plymouth, Wisconsin has won multiple awards for its artisan cheeses and maintains transparent production practices with cave-aging programs. Jasper Hill Farm in Greensboro, Vermont operates a genuine small farm creamery with on-site aging caves, published farming practices, and transparent supply chain documentation. Rogue Creamery in Central Point, Oregon produces award-winning blue cheese with certified organic milk and published sustainability practices. Shelburne Farms in Shelburne, Vermont operates an educational farm and creamery that demonstrates what small-scale, transparent cheese production actually looks like. These producers prove that cheese can be made without wood pulp fillers, without fairy tale marketing, without calling processed food product cheese, and without government-mandated advertising campaigns designed to put more cheese on pizza. The premium you pay at these creameries goes to the cheese. The premium you pay at conglomerate brands goes to the commercial. Here are the red flags. If the label says 100% grated Parmesan, check the ingredient list for cellulose. If the cellulose percentage is above 4%, the 100% claim is mathematically false. If the label says natural cheese, it means not processed, nothing more. If the packaging shows pastoral farm imagery, research where the milk actually comes from. If the product is wrapped in individual plastic or red wax, calculate the per-pound price versus block cheese. And if you cannot find the words pasteurized prepared cheese product on the package, you may be eating cheese. If you can find those words, you are eating something that is legally not cheese, regardless of what the front of the package says. Let me be direct about what this investigation has revealed. 16 brands and systems examined. Billions in industry revenue dissected. A pattern of wood pulp adulteration, factory farm concealment, nutritional exaggeration, and definitional deception is documented across an industry that has successfully convinced America to eat twice as much cheese as it did 50 years ago. Castle Cheese sold 0% Parmesan as 100% Parmesan for years. Essential Everyday's 100% Parmesan was nearly 9% wood filler. Walmart's 100% Parmesan was nearly 8%. Kraft's iconic green canister contains cellulose while claiming 100% on the front. Velveeta's made with real cheese label conceals a product that is legally not cheese. The FTC charged Kraft with false advertising over calcium claims in singles. Tillamook's small family farm marketing conceals a 70,000 cow desert factory. Sargento's natural label means only not processed. Nothing about the farming practices. And the USDA spends your tax dollars putting more cheese on pizza while telling you to eat less fat. The label you trusted says 100%. The laboratory says 91%. The pastoral imagery shows green pastures. The GPS coordinates show a desert feedlot. The package says cheese. The FDA classification says cheese product. Every time you buy based on what the front of the package says without reading the back, you fund the next campaign that puts wood pulp in your Parmesan and calls it 100% real. You did not buy cheese. You bought a label. Now you know what is real. The economics are revealing. 100 pounds of milk produces 10 pounds of cheddar, but only 8 pounds of Parmesan. That 2-pound difference, multiplied across 13 billion pounds of annual American cheese production, creates a multi-billion-dollar incentive to cut costs through fillers, cheaper cheeses, and misleading labels. The wood pulp costs pennies. The Parmesan it replaces costs dollars. Every percentage point of cellulose above the acceptable level represents pure profit extracted from consumers who trusted the 100% on the front of the label. The checkoff math is equally damning. The dairy industry spends over $500 million annually on mandated advertising. That advertising increased American cheese consumption from 20 pounds per person in 1970 to over 40 pounds today. The increase was not because cheese improved. The increase was because marketing improved. And the USDA, the same agency responsible for your dietary guidelines, managed the advertising that drove the increase. The agency that tells you to limit saturated fat spent $12 million helping Domino's add 40% more cheese to its pizza. The commercial you watched cost more than the cheese in your sandwich. The 100% on the label is not 100%. The small farm in the advertisement is a 70,000 cow factory. The natural on the package means only not processed, not what you think it means. And the government agency that should be protecting you from misleading food claims is the same agency funding the advertising that makes those claims louder. You did not buy cheese. You bought a commercial. Now you know what is real.